Hello, Anicod here. No, don't adjust your screens. Rust has turned into some sort of 1920s Laurel and Hardy flick. First horses and now this. They'll have us chasing trains next. So, today's video then, in case you haven't guessed, it's modular vehicles. I'm going to talk you through the different chassis, a few different builds, what to look out for and what to avoid. So, I'm going to be one of those YouTubers that says without further ado. So, without further ado, here we go. Now, the vehicles in the absolute base form do come in either 2 modules, 3 modules, like you can see here, not an awful lot of difference, and 4 modules, which is the biggest one currently. That one's dancing around, I'm not sure why that's happening. You will probably find them like this with some broken engine that you do need to find parts for, which we'll cover a little bit later on. By the way, this has got nothing to do with me shooting it with a rocket, so let's just ignore that. So as I mentioned, you do need some engine parts to get these vehicles moving when you find them. You do get low quality, medium quality and high quality engine parts. So as you can see here, there's a low quality carburetor. At the minute, there's not an awful lot of difference between all 3 parts, apart from the look. So you get crankshaft, you get pistons, again, low, medium and high quality. You get spark plugs, and you also get the valves. Now you do need a minimum of 1 of each of these to put into the low quality engines to get the vehicle moving. On higher powered engines, which we'll cover a little bit later on, you'll actually need 2 of some of these parts. So that's not the only thing you get with these vehicles. You can obviously replace the cabs, the engines, the back ends. You can do pretty much anything, and all you need is a ramp like I've got in front of me here. So you can get an armoured cockpit. These are 700 health, and it's quite hard to find an angle to shoot into, so they do offer you a lot of protection. You can get a cockpit without an engine, and you can also get a cockpit with an engine. The best thing about this is it only takes up 1 module. You can also take you and your Zerklan to the bingo if you want, because you can get passenger modules, and you can also get rear seats. So it all depends on what chassis you've got and how much space you've got to play with. For the back ends, you've got storage modules which can store 15 items, and these do lock with the vehicle lock, so don't worry about leaving your stuff in there. You can get a single module flatbed. I haven't found a huge use for this yet. You can also get a dual module flatbed, which is obviously a bit bigger. You can get a fuel tank, which you're not really going to be storing fuel in here, it's mostly for water. And you can also get an engine. So this is at the moment the highest performance engine you can get. It takes up a full module itself, and you do need a couple of engine parts to get it running. They will fix this, they will buff bits and add new bits, and there will be a lot of changes taking place. So we'll start with the dual module, which is the smallest vehicle. Again, you won't find them like this. All you have to do is push it, unless you can drive it obviously, but push it onto the flatbed, and if you don't even have to get it perfect really, if you just line it up kinda like that, it automatically goes up and it automatically aligns itself. Once you go to the console, make sure you've got enough power and you're not a total noob. It'll ask you to work on vehicle. Now you can see there's normally 4 modules, 2 have been greyed out because it's the smallest vehicle. And now it's up to you, you can just build. So if we use the cockpit on its own, it won't work because you obviously need an engine. Absolute minimum is engine and cockpit or driving module. Now you can get one with an engine built in like we've just seen, and all you have to do to put the engine parts in is go to the front of the engine and you can enter them that way. So while we're here, I'll show you a couple of the other modules. You've got the armoured module. This is what I meant before about it's quite hard to shoot in. It does give you a lot of protection, and it is 700 health as well. And this is the actual engine. Remember, it does take up a module by itself, so you do need seats in there before you can use the vehicle. So all we would have to do is just put a module on there. Now you might notice here I've put an engine module on there and a module with an engine built in, so there's actually 2 engines here. Doesn't make a difference. Again, you need to be really careful with what you put on here because you've only got 2 modules. You do need an engine and a cockpit, so just take that into consideration. So you might notice some little white marks, some little white blotches. They show you how many cells you need to put the item on there. So the tanker takes up 2 cells. Obviously you can see here that that's that whole vehicle done. No engine, no drivetrain, so we can't use it. So let's build something usable. We've got an engine and a flatbed. If you can use the vehicle, the ramp will automatically lower. If the ramp doesn't go down, then there's something wrong. So you can see here now when we click on the engine parts, we do need spark plugs, the valves, the carburetor, the crankshaft and the pistons. and it's just a case of literally dragging them onto the correct bit. Once you've done that, the car's ready to rock and roll. It'll tell you the power, the condition, the acceleration, top speed and fuel economy, and all we have to do then is put fuel in it. So the fuel, in case you didn't notice before, goes in the back, clearly says fuel on it, and that's it. It's literally a case of jumping in it and driving it. Now it is possible to lock these. We will get into this a little bit later on, and remember, you don't actually need a ramp. You can find these cars here, there and everywhere, and you can just repair them if they're broken. All you have to do to use the cars is obviously find the engine parts, and you're laughing. So you might notice now we can't take the modules off, and that's purely because there's parts in the engine. So if you do want to remove the modules, you've got to make sure they're completely empty first. So as you can see, remove the module, and now we can go back to the bog standard chassis. Now if you are bored of it, you can just click on the destroy button. In 10 seconds, you have got 10 seconds to change your mind. It will literally just break apart, and then you're ready to put your new vehicle on there. If you click destroy, it will drop the items and equipment that you've stored in there, so don't worry about losing your stuff. So the next one then, we're going to go for a slightly bigger one. Again, just push it onto the jack, and you can see now we've got 3 cells to play with. So what we can actually do is put a tanker on there, and that means we've got 1 cell left to put a seat with an engine built in. Obviously you can see here, just the engine on its own, we can't do anything. Again, I don't think I showed you the double flatbed before, but it's just double the size. I don't know what you can use the flatbed for, but what we're going to do is have a little bit of fun with this. We're going to have a little bit of flatbed, a complete engine and an armoured unit. Doesn't look too bad if you ask me. So again, this engine does require a bit more stuff to make it run, so we're going to need 2 sets of valves on this one. We're also going to need 2 sets of spark plugs, 2 sets of pistons, 1 carburetor and 1 crankshaft, and you can see we've got a little bit more power. The acceleration, top speed, fuel economy seems to be 100% regardless until Rust devs buff it. Remember, put some fuel in it and you're ready to rock and roll. Again, the armoured cab is much better, but it's quite hard to see out of. However, if you do press F3, you can change to a third person view. Just remember to press F3 again when you get out to get into your normal view again, or it'll confuse the absolute hell out of you. And there we go, nice pretty nippy little motor. Now what we're going to do is have a go at the most fun one in my opinion, just because it gives you the most cells to have a play around with, and that's the 4 modules chassis, the biggest one currently, and your world is pretty much your oyster with this one. So you can have the storage. Again, as I mentioned before, I think I did mention that the storage is 15, it's actually 18, so forgive me for that. There's nothing stopping you having this at the front, at the back. Completely up to you. I say you can have the flatbed at the front if you want. You can sit behind it so you can keep an eye on whatever you've got in there. Here's the passenger vehicles. So as you can see, you can store 6 passengers on there. You can also put another module on there, which is another set of seats. One thing to take into account is there's no steering wheel on these modules, so you do need a separate module with steering and engine if you're using these together. That should be big enough for any Zerg clan. Again, if you're unsure if a module has a steering wheel, just look. If you have got it right, as I mentioned, the lift will simply go down by itself, and that lets you know that you can drive it. If it stays up, then there's something wrong somewhere, so just keep having a play around with it. So what we're going to do is have the tanker on the back. We're going to put some fuel in it ready. We're going to have a separate engine on here to try and make it high powered, and I think we're going to go for the armoured cockpit. Again, 700 health. It does protect from almost all gunfire, and it should be able to withstand a couple of rockets as well, so it should give you enough time to get out of there. Now as you can see, we've lightly mentioned it before, it does require a few more parts, but if you want to drive to a river, say if you're farming, collect tons of fresh water, drive it back to your base in relative safety. I'm not sure who's laying in wait to ambush a tanker full of water, but it is Rust after all. And there we go. And this is what I mentioned before, the modular vehicles is specific to you and how you play the game. So there's no best modular vehicle. You need to build these simply based on what you need the vehicles for. If you're literally going A to B, then you don't need any more than a 2 module chassis with a nice big engine. If you're doing a lot of transport in stock, then you do need a separate engine with a storage module and possibly armoured as well. If you're transferring Zerg clans, then you also need the passenger attachments, and if you're doing a little bit of hoarding, you can build what I've just built here. So this is a tanker to carry water. You got the storage module at the back, it's got the engine built into the driver's module at the front, and you can store pretty much anything you want in the storage, just like a normal chest or any other type of storage. Now I know what you're asking, and yes, you can create a key. So all you have to do is look look here. You do create a key, and it works similar to the old school Rust, where you've got a little wooden door, you've got a key lock, and you have to create a key. However, if someone gets that key, they've got access to your base. Well, luckily it's not like that anymore. However, the vehicles are like that. If you do lose the key, the vehicle is completely locked out. This is good in a sense that no one can get your ill-gotten gains, but if you do lose the key, like I've done here, like an absolute doylem, it does make it tricky. Now, you can destroy the vehicle and get your stuff back that way. It only takes 2 high-velocity rockets when the vehicle's at 100% health, or, like I am here, if you're close enough to a ramp, you can actually push the vehicle onto the ramp. So once it's on there, you can actually see the extent of the damage. Now, you can create a new key from there. You can even remove the lock if you want. So let's just have a look at the engine. Now you can see that the parts destroy, so you do need to keep some spares. So we'll replace all those. Then we can have a look at each individual module. If you click on the module, you can click repair. It tells you the price at the bottom, so you don't need a little hammer and hit it with a hammer. So we're going to repair all of these and make it as good as new. There you go, back to normal again. Now if the storage does take a hit, so it destroys, as you can see it's completely destroyed, you still can access it without a key, and it won't drop any goods. So if you are trying to get out of a situation and get it up the back end by a rocket, it won't drop the things out of the storage. Now you just put it back on your ramp, and it's a simple case of just hitting repair. If you are wondering, high velocity rockets are the best for destroying vehicles. So again, we're going to repair all of this back up to full health, and as you can see, good as new. Now I have tried making this video as easy to understand as possible, but if there's still something you don't understand, let me know in the comments down below and I'll revisit it. If you're watching this video on day of upload, I'm probably streaming on YouTube now. I've moved away from Twitch for the time being, and I'm streaming on YouTube, so come and say hi. Remember, if you want to see what I'm up to next, you can follow me on Twitter. If you want to see a future video's thumbnail before the video's even released on YouTube, follow me on Instagram. If you've made it this far in the video, let me know down in the comments that you're a legend, and I'll give you a little comment heart. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.